5 listing presentations.
Okay.
So I will kind of sporadically set them out, and then you guys can make copies of all of them once we're through. But right now, I didn't really know how many were going to show up, and Sydney was eye-rolling me to make all of them. No, I'm kidding. You went, what? And I went, okay, just make 8. I don't care, whatever. So those are coming. Who in this class has somewhat of a listing presentation? Yeah, JSG, Will, you do. You just don't know yet.
I have my binder, I brought that.
Okay, so awesome. And if you don't, that's awesome too. If you have one, have you really looked at it? Do you really understand what's in your listing presentation? Because sometimes we put it together and it looks so great, and then we go to the listing appointment and we're tripping over ourselves, or we are relying on it too much. So I'm going to give you a couple hints. Regardless of what your listing presentation looks like, a big hint is to send it over prior to your appointment. So that's a huge game changer. It changed how our listings actually, how many we take, and we can read the room when we go there. If we send the listing presentation over in advance, we will ask them, have you received, did you have a chance to look over our listing presentation? And for those who say, no, I was too busy, then we know what kind of personality we're dealing with. Maybe you're not fully on board with listing yet. Maybe they're just not very organized. They have a lot going on. And for those who say, yes, we've read it and we have some questions, that's always a good thumbs up. You can send it over via email. You can hand deliver it the day or two before you go on to your appointment. That is a really great thing to do. I've done that before and super impressive. I put it in a really cool envelope and I write a card. I'm looking forward to meeting you Thursday at 3 o'clock. Please read over the material. If you have any questions, we can discuss it when I get there. I love hand delivering my listing presentations prior to my appointment. Just especially if they're older and they like paper or they don't have a printer, you just don't know. So you kind of figure out which one should I do, but I always send it over prior, hands down for sure. And grab some of these.
I know, I was like, my mom last week, you know.
There's so many people.
You know, normally there's like the 5 of us.
So here is, and I'm gonna just, if you guys can maybe sit a little close together, so I have, again, you can take this, whoever you're with, and after class, make a copy. So I think this is one.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Yep. How do you guys share?
Oh, I guess we can share.
Yeah, you can share.
These are the same packets that you're sending out?
What's that?
Same packets that you're sending out to everybody?
Yeah. You guys are gonna have to make copies of this.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. Oh. You already have it.
Yes.
No, that's awesome. No, you are way ahead. No, take it.
Yep.
Okay, you're good. So, actually, this is really modified. It came out today, so this is new. So here's our listing, our presentation. And this, you guys, you're going to get several for you to kind of look at. Take pieces of what you like, use them, and make something your own. So the biggest thing I love is having a mission statement. We kind of talked about that before. What is your mission? With this is the team. So this is talking about the team and how this particular team works. We're gonna talk about marketing, how we launch our listings, our process of listings. And then we have photos of staging. So we have examples, and then it's basically meeting our team. So look through that presentation really quick.
Oh, yeah.
And I want you to raise your hand and tell me one thing, so this will take a little bit, one thing in this presentation that you find of value to you, that you may want to use.
Your list at the end.
Yeah, I was gonna say the contractors.
Contractors, helper, electrician, roofing, handyman.
Yeah,
I like that a lot.
yes. So, and that took us a while to get. This is a really good thing. If you don't have a contractor list, try not to use, I mean, you feel free to use these. But one thing is, this is a really good opportunity for you to reach out to your database and ask them who have they used in the past for contractors. And then start your own list. Have your own little black book of contractors, and how you're gonna get that is literally reaching out to your database and asking them, have you had a 5-star experience with a contractor? HVAC, electrical, painter, carpet. Try to get as much information from your database as you can, and then keep a tally on it. And then you can reach out to these people. I just got a call from a business in Shorewood and said, Janine, could we use you as a resource for, you know, getting your name out, but also, because we're starting our client list, we're painters and real estate. I'm like, yeah, awesome. So call those people, talk to those contractors, and ask them if if you can use them as a resource. So that's huge. Anyone else?
Adding in the new Keller offers.
Yes. Yeah. Adding in the new Keller offers. Excellent. Did everyone go to that training online? If you didn't, you need to, because then you'll be certified and that's another story, but okay, good. Anyone else?
The 9 steps to the listing process.
Yes. So even if you're in front of a seller that has moved around a lot, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be the same process as when they moved before. And every state is a little different too, and every experience is going to be different. So even if they're well seasoned, they are going to forget. Also, if they're older and they haven't moved in a while, which is happening now, a lot of people in their 60s and 70s are selling their houses, they're downsizing or whatever. They have not moved in 30-some years. And as intelligent and as savvy as they are, they will have no idea what's going on. So that listing process is extremely important. Okay. Anyone else? Yes.
So for me, I don't know if these pictures are, actually proof of your God's work, but it just feels as if it's evidence.
Yes.
It just stands out.
Yes. So if you don't have photos, if you don't have your own stager, see if you can find before and after photos online and see, use those. All right. Here's Nancy Brennan's. Do I need to give you one?
No, I have it in my binder here.
Thank you. Okay. And this is what's so great about this class today. You're going to see everyone has a different flavor. Everyone has a new twist. So I'm going to take a look at this one. This is Nancy and her beautiful daughter.
This is how yours goes out? I mean, is there a personalized letter on top, or?
Yes. So I do an introductory, who I am, my missions, or my all of my past client reviews. But that's the gut of it.
And that's static? That's just ready, that's ready to go?
It's ready to go. Oh yeah, PDF downloaded, here you go. So here's Nancy, and I love this. It's kind of letting people know who she is. Floyd Whitman Sales and Marketing Program, I did that too.
Isn't that amazing? You were a sweat hog with me.
I sure was. What year was that?
Well, I remember, I have pictures of our group in Wauwatosa
Oh my gosh.
with Colleen Sprague, so that was in '96.
Yeah,
So it was probably in the early '90s.
yes.
He's been around forever. But
Is he still
so,
alive?
That's our cover.
You know, when I left there years ago, he doesn't do it anymore.
Right.
They had another group of them, and they were awful. They were just like these military kind of guys coming in a room. This is, marching about.
I think that's who I had, because I was in, so Floyd Whitman.
I actually had him.
Oh, you did? I didn't have Floyd.
Yeah.
He ran a program called Sweat Hogs, and I was newly licensed in 1993 in Dallas. I sold for a year and a half. And I signed up for this program because my coldwell banker broker said, you need to do this. This is going to just put you in production right away. I went, oh, okay, fine. I have no idea what I'm doing. I think we started out with 400. This was big time Dallas. 400 in our class. I think maybe 29 graduated.
Oh, you're kidding.
Yes, because
Wow.
every week, I think we
You
met
had
every week, and every week you had an assignment. And that assignment would be, you have to come in with a listing.
Yeah.
Well, if you're brand new and I didn't know anybody, how am I gonna get a listing? Oh, you door knock. I mean, and then if you didn't come in, you had like so many strikes, you're out. So bold is nothing. And you had to bring in the signed listing agreement, and then it was the next week you have to bring in 2 new listings. It was crazy, but didn't you learn a lot?
Oh, absolutely. It was, it was baptism by fire.
It was.
And, it was a great program, and we had a lot of people graduated from it. But, when you're new, it's great because that's how you're going to get leads, is you're going to knock on the door, and you're going to call everybody you know, and you're going to get out the tax records and, find out who's been in their house for 30 years.
Yeah.
So it really made you do those activities.
Yeah.
And it used to be 12 weeks. Then the last time when I was in management, they narrowed it down to 6.
Yeah, I think
So
I
we
was
had that
12.
for 12 weeks. We had to do that.
I think I was 12. And it was 12.
We had 12 weeks.
And I remember just like going off the train here, but I was pretty young. I just had my first baby, so Annie was maybe like a year and a half. And no one in my brokerage took the Floyd Whitman class. It was just me, and it was a pretty big office. And I was rookie of the year because of that class. Yeah.
Well, I was in 84, not,
And I don't think it was
You
well
did.
received because I would come to the office like, oh, rah, 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 and they're like,
It does, it gets you off.
yeah. Can you show me
You
how
had
to work the
teams
copier?
and-
No.
We had to have our little names and stuff, so I haven't taken bold, I don't know what that is like, so. But yeah,
it's a
you
little
had
bit.
homework.
You had homework, and you get a little pin. I still have mine.
Yep, I do too, yeah.
So, okay, so Nancy was so kind to share us, and maybe Nancy, you can tell us a little bit about how do you send out a pre-listing packet?
Yeah, so what I did last year is I got, so this is what I always put together. So
Okay.
I have a binder, and it looks like this, and so when I go on a listing appointment, I'm not as good as you. When I go on a listing appointment, I bring this with me. So I leave this with them,
You
so
do.
they can read all this. And I'm a 2-stepper. I know a lot of you top people go one time and then that's it, but I'm not at the level of Janine.
Hey, we started at 0, so.
So I leave this in, but what I did in the fall, I put it in a PowerPoint.
Okay,
So now I have a PowerPoint and I put all of this in a PDF. So
okay.
yes, I can now, I think I'll start, doing that. But with some people that are, I do a lot of estate work, and so when I first meet like the personal rep, one of the family members, then I give them this because there's usually 2 or 3 brothers or sisters, or that type of thing. So I did do a PowerPoint because that seems to be what all the top people are doing like throughout the country. But you do what you do what
Again,
you
you
want
have
to
to
do.
know your audience, and
Right.
you're working with estates a lot. That is typically not a one-stop shop. You've
Correct.
got to, there is usually 2 steps because there's several people involved in the decision. And so they're interviewing, because they're doing their due diligence, they're gonna interview 2 or 3 different sets of realtors and then decide what is the best fit.
So then when I'm there, you know, we go look at the house and all that type of thing. And then, I leave this with them and I just do an overview. Cause you get about 8 minutes for people's attention. After that, they're just like,
Yep.
Even with the PowerPoint, same thing. You know, you can send it to them, but you don't have much of their time. So I know all this stuff and I just kind of breeze over it and then I say the most important things, and I got this from Inman last year. It was like the 10 steps, what they need to do to get their house.
I saw that when I looked at yours
Saleable.
last night.
You know, I saw
Really
that,
great.
so I got that from one, broker did that. So it's the same point, you gotta paint, you gotta declutter, you gotta, so there's 10 things, and so I really spent a lot of time with that.
I think that's great.
I
See,
spent a
we're
ton of
all
time.
learning something new. Yes, my dear.
This is the right time for a question?
It sure is. Anytime's the right time for a
So
question.
for the folks that are
Yeah,
new,
1, 2,
Yes.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9,
we obviously have no reviews.
in order.
Right.
So do we just grab from me
From the team.
the team reviews or Keller Williams
Yep.
review teams? Okay.
Absolutely.
Alright.
So if you're not on the team and you're new, you can do Keller Williams reviews. If you're on the team, grab their reviews. Great. Absolutely. And this is a really good note that Nancy said. There is nothing more painful to be sitting through a presentation, watching the sellers rolling their eyes in the back of their head. So the first thing you do when you walk in the house is, of course, you greet each other. You ask if you should remove your shoes, because that can be a deal breaker with a lot of people. So that's the first thing you do. So you're conscious of their surroundings and you're polite. And then they're not sure what you're gonna ask of them. So I always say, can you give us a nickel tour? And that is when you're walking around the property with that seller and they're going through every room and you're taking notes. And I think I've said this 1,000 times, don't ooh and ah like crazy, because then their price is going up in their heads. And it could come across as being not very authentic. That you are just saying and doing those things because you want to get the listing. So you should ask questions, and if anything pops out, you know, we'll say, if there's a stain on the ceiling and they're walking through, let's say a bedroom, I'll say, oh, I noticed the stain on the ceiling. Can you tell me anything about that? So you're observant and you're writing down notes. And they want you to do that. If you see something that doesn't look right, ask them about it, okay? So you're going through and you're asking them questions about, hopefully you may know some of these already, but you know, what's your timeline? Where are you going? You wanna find out what their motivation is. When I first started out, I would comment on all the photos. Like, oh, is that your daughter? Try not to do that. I think I lost a listing because I knew them through my daughter a little bit. I didn't really know them, but our kids knew each other. And we started like talking about that, and it just went off into a whole different, and then I kind of lost my credibility. So be really careful. Just try to keep it professional. You're there to get the listing, get it signed, and get going. So, okay. What else about Nancy?
Hey, Janine, can you hear us?
Yeah.
Do you mind pulling the computer a little bit closer?
Oh, I think we need to make that on the camera for them.
Oh, yeah, that's gonna be tough. Is that better?
That's great. That's great. Thank you.
Uh-huh. Anything else looking through this presentation that let's pretend you're a seller. What stands out to you that would intrigue you?
Seller's tasks.
Seller's what?
Tasks.
Seller's tasks, things to do. What else?
This slide, like, we are the masters of luxury real estate.
I love that. Putting in the luxury piece into her presentation. What is luxury to you? What is your number? Like, what does luxury start out at?
Pretty much anything over 500,000.
Okay.
600,000. But my philosophy has always been, I treat every single listing as such. They all get the same thing.
Yes.
Because not everybody can live in a $500,000 house, they can't live in a $1 million house. I always treat every listing, like I just took one, and just sold it, it was an estate. Actually, it was not an estate, his mother's in a nursing home. They need that money to get her to be able to live in a nursing home. So I did the same exact thing. I gave him a consult. I said we should paint. I brought all my staging things out, and we sold it in like a couple, 3 weeks. You know. So I always treat everybody exactly the same. I do the same exact steps, and you know, so
Yeah.
I treat them that way. Everybody's the same.
Their house is their luxury listing. That's how I look at it. Their $150,000 house is their luxury home. So bring it on. They're gonna be treated the same way. Actually, you know, some of those are even tougher. So you're gonna be working harder. So therefore, that luxury experience, you really wanna love on those people even more. This is probably my favorite part, the 1 through 10. I love that. Those are actionable items that the seller can look at it. Number 1 is paint. Oh my gosh, yes. A coat of paint can do a world of wonders. Landscaping. That first impression when you pull up and you're, you know, pulling up to look at the house, you're looking at that landscaping. So I have even potted pots for people, because I love to do it. I will, you know, really be mindful of what the impression is when I first walk in, and that's where some of your resources, your contractors, come into play. I had a listing not too long ago where it was a rental for a long time, but it was a luxury listing, and it was, so the seller spent like $3,000 to get the landscaping up to snuff, and had to replace a Juliet balcony in the front. It went from looking kind of run down to, this is an amazing house. It sold right away. So landscaping is super important. Appliance refresh, right? If there is an appliance, have you seen these appliances that are actually like rusting? You know, get them out, get them out. Also, it shows up on the photos, yeah.
So if it's an old appliance and they can't really afford to replace it, it's better to just remove it, like not have the gross.
If it's an old, if it is a complete eyesore,
Yeah.
I don't know if
the kitchen's kind of nice and it's like, ew, that's like a gross.
yeah.
And they're like, we can't buy a new fridge.
I don't know. That's
I don't know either.
Yeah, it just depends. If it is just a complete goiter,
Yeah.
then maybe remove it.
Right.
If it's not working,
Yeah.
take it out.
Yeah,
Right,
exactly.
right. If it's not gonna be included in, they don't want it. If you don't wanna include it.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Although if there's no fridge there, I was like a buyer, and I was like, oh, the first thing I have to do is buy a fridge. Like, I'll
It's
go
amazing how
places.
people don't even notice that though.
Yeah, if it's all clean.
Yeah.
Clean it.
Yeah.
Like I
And-
feel like if it's a gross fridge, I'd rather have a clean, open space.
I mean,
nice
it would
fridge.
have to be really, really, really bad for me to
Disgusting.
tell them to take it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, it would have to be really pretty bad. Or it just didn't fit in at all with what was
It's
going on in there.
avocado, green, and it's in the nice white kitchen.
Or everything was stainless steel except for the dishwasher, and it was so old. It's like, hey, if you actually replace that dishwasher, I think we're gonna, yeah. Countertop, updating countertop. So, you know, again, if it doesn't pay to update the countertop because the whole kitchen needs to be gutted, you know, then you have to kind of think about it. Is it really worth for them to replace the countertop when they're probably gonna gut the whole thing? So that's kind of a flooring, worn carpet, or listen, if there's hardwood floors under the carpet, maybe encourage your sellers to take that carpet out. And that's a big job, but it helps. Roof. If it is an old roof and there are issues with the roof, get a roofer out there. If they can't do it, they're unwilling to do it, have a couple quotes and have that in your back pocket. I even had a couple roofers that once we get an accepted offer on the property, they will put a new roof on and take it out of proceeds. 80 roofing. HVAC, have it serviced before, okay, so there it goes. I'm all about pre-home inspection, so some of these would be addressed with the pre-home inspection. 99% of the listings that I take are inspected before I go on the market.
Question. I know that's been common given the market. Is that something you've always done?
No,
No?
we did, and then we
Okay.
didn't, and then we did, and then we didn't, and now we do.
So the benefit, obviously, of doing a pre-home inspection is to cover everyone's ass.
Yes,
And to say, this is what either I'm gonna fix, I'm not gonna fix, da-da-da-da. And then if people write an offer with no inspection, which is continental.
yes,
That covers that.
yes.
So if you're doing a pre-inspection 5 years ago, when it wasn't such a big market, you do an inspection on top of that, obviously.
Maybe, maybe not.
Maybe not, okay.
Do you make the seller then pay for the?
Yep.
Janine?
Seller pays for the pre-home inspection.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. I can tell you that since we have really been implementing the pre-home inspection, there, with an exception of one, every buyer used that home inspection report and they waived it. It really puts your seller in, you know, the front seat. And then you just know that that's one less contingency that we need to be concerned about. And every buyer is on the same playing field. They all see it. If they're comfortable with it, then they're gonna write that offer and not have a home inspection. And if they're not comfortable with it, they're either not going to write on it or they're gonna ask for their own home inspection, which I just had a listing, pre-home inspection done. First offer went through with waiving home inspection. It fell apart on financing. Second offer came in, and it sat there for a little bit. Second offer came in, and they wanted their own home inspection. And yeah, that was another story.
So if you have, like, you know there's a house that you're listing in and needs work, you know
Mhm.
that, so you recommend the pre-home inspection. They do it, and things come up, and let's say they do address some of the things, so then when you list it, you can put down, you know, that this was taken care
Yep.
of, blah, blah, blah. I mean, does that affect,
No,
like, once they see, like, oh my gosh, there's all of this wrong, but they did something?
no, it's absolutely beautiful because
Okay.
would a buyer rather see that then, or would they rather see it after they put the offer on their property and then they're gonna get nervous?
Yeah.
So let them see it,
Oh,
feel good about it.
that avoids the emotional roller coaster.
Right, it's like, okay, I know what I'm walking into, I know what they remedied, and I know what they didn't. So I know what I'm gonna have to personally handle if I waive home inspection.
Because I've had people that I thought were pretty sophisticated, down to earth, just lose their shit
Yep.
after an inspection.
Especially in this market today where it's so competitive and they didn't, and they're gonna do their own pre-home inspection, that's where the emotions go up and down, right? So if we can alleviate a little bit of that, that's kind of the thought process.
Well, that might kind of help the sellers be realistic with their pricing too.
Yes,
Because they think
correct.
they're gonna make all this money, but if they have a bit of a fixer, it's like, well, if all of this was done, yes.
It's a reality check.
Yeah.
It is a reality check, and I always say to the sellers, you know, working on their behalf, wouldn't you rather be in control of this transaction than the buyer coming in afterwards with their own home inspection, which I'm not saying they won't, but likelihood that they will waive it. But you are gonna be empowered by having this, and it's never gonna be pretty. It's like eating the frog right away, or do you swallow it later and it's not your, you know, your choice? Yes.
I know you said most of your sellers ultimately do that, but how much pushback do you get from them?
I think it's in how you deliver it.
Okay.
This is what I say. I highly recommend that you do a pre-home inspection, and this is why. There are many things in your home that honestly you won't even know are an issue. So we can have the pre-home inspection, and we're gonna sit down and go through the inspection together, and we're gonna decide as a team what you want to address and what you don't want to address. Therefore, when we do go on the market and we disclose everything, you're gonna be in the front seat. we're going to disclose everything. The issue with what's going on in today's market is that some buyers, if you do not have a pre-home inspection, they may waive their home inspection completely. They are relying on your condition report that you have filled out. And guess what happens? If you didn't disclose something unknowingly, who do you think they're going to be calling when something goes wrong? You. And that's where the lawsuits happen. And there was this huge article, oh, it was like 6 months ago, from home inspectors saying that this is what's happening, that they're not inspecting homes like they used to, and the lawsuits have really gone up because these buyers are relying on these condition reports. So that statement right there, go, yep, I'll get my home re-inspected.
And it's not a huge cost
No, it's like $550.
when you're selling a house. It's just-
Yeah.
My husband does them for $400.
Oh, Nancy, good to know. Okay, we need his cards.
We need to put it in the
He does them for 400. So.
That is awesome.
Yes, and he does for certain brokers. Yeah, they do them all the time, and you have to do it. I was going to say another thing too. One thing that's great when I have my listings, and we, I mean, I've been doing this for so long. I can tell when a roof is bad. I can tell when the basement looks bad, and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So what I say to my sellers, I can tell, and you're relying on me. I have to disclose all these things. I'm going to get my basement guy out here, and I'm going to get my roofer out here. So you do that, and then we have an estimate. So then we get offers, we show that to everybody, and I just, we always, it's a negotiation. We say, we'll take it off the price now, we can put it in escrow. My guys, like I have another great roofer that will do that, and I use Gatish for my basement.
Oh yeah, they're great.
He will do the work, and he'll take it out of their proceeds for the seller. But he'll only do that, I'm not going to say that he's going to do that for everybody. He knows me very well, and he knows you very well.
The trust factor.
That these are going to close, So, and that's what a great agent is, that you do this consultation and advising with your sellers, because most of them, they've never sold a house.
Right.
They haven't sold their house in 40 years.
Yes.
They don't know what's out there. They don't know the market's crazy nuts and this, that, and the other thing. And what are agents doing? And you're to be there to advise them, but I always point those out. I get estimates right away. Then my seller knows, okay, when we get an offer, I gotta take 5,000 offers.
Yeah.
Or we'll split the roof. Rather than they go get a home inspection, then, you open up the floodgates, they're like, oh
Yeah.
my God.
This is going to be a $50,000 cost.
It's
No,
always
actually,
$50,000
it's not.
for everything,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is so true. And honestly, it kind of gives you an idea right away when you're talking about the pre-home inspection, who you're dealing with. So, since I do the pre-home inspection before I list, I'm either going to get maybe 2 questions on it, or I'm going to get 102 questions on it. So then it's kind of I'm already thinking, I know what the negotiations are going to be like with these sellers, because they are asking a ton of questions now, and that's just what they are. So they're very type A and analytical, so it kind of gives me a sense of, I know what's going to happen when we actually go on the market. I can predict the behavior, so I am well aware of it. Or if it was someone like, okay, yeah, Ginny, we're going to do all of it. Sometimes I don't even have time to look at the report. They're like, oh, we called everyone out, they're telling me to fix everything. So then I kind of know what I'm dealing with on that side. So it's very interesting. Okay, this, moving along, is Annie's. And I don't know if you guys were here. I think I have a digital copy. Do you? Okay. For those of you that have a digital copy, don't take this one. Isn't this fun?
It is fun.
Well, it's so great you're doing this.
Oh.
Amy, what he's gonna.
Did I give you guys one?
Yes, thanks.
I have an extra.
Yeah, stuff up there too.
So,
I have, anyone need one? I have an extra. Yes. That is all, you're in the front seat, you deserve it.
There's no walking around. I said, you know, the best thing is to be.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know how she turns pages, so it's alright.
This is Annie's. So some of you that were in class a couple weeks ago, she presented her seller's guide. She is amazing. She works with a lot of seniors. So that's kind of her main audience. And I've loved every single presentation. This one's great as well. So she has an introduction. I love how she says, your needs come first. Who doesn't want to see that? Of course I want my needs to come first. So this is something to really chew on, because I think, and then she has the process right away. This is the process. Yes, my dear.
This template is available on design on command. I know because I used it. So
Okay.
when I made mine, so it's available on command. You can just copy and paste your information.
Perfect. So this is going through the process. Talks about how she's going to market. Talking about the coming soon, just listed. In the details. So these are, you know, very specific. Her biography, everything about Annie. Her testimonials. And this goes into how she represents them in showing their homes. I think this was in the depth of COVID.
Yeah, I still really like it though, especially if she works with mostly seniors, because
Absolutely.
it keeps just like spinning up every few months anyway, so
Of course.
seems endless at this point.
Exactly. And I love how she wraps it up. I love this last page, the bottom line. Real estate is complicated, and that's where I come in. That's great. Especially if her audience is the senior level, there's a lot of angst and there's a lot of hand-holding. And that's her wheelhouse. That's what she's really great at. However, you have to remember that everyone needs a lot of hand-holding. Whether you think they do or not, they need hand-holding. So this one is a great, great resource. Anything in there that stands out to you? In Annie's?
That last page that you just mentioned.
Yeah.
Simple.
Simple.
Yeah.
Simple. Okay.
Well, kind of like you were saying, how you wrote to ask what their motivation was and all that stuff. That's like right inside that first page.
Yes. Okay. One more.
You know, Janine, this is, might sound kind of basic, but I just got the same designation that Annie has, it's Senior Real Estate Specialist designation.
Tell us about
And
that.
she spells it out. Well, the reason I got it is 2/3 of my transactions are with seniors or their heirs or their estates or their POAs. So it just makes sense to do that. It's important, I think it's important that she spells all of these steps out that we already know. We have too much inside baseball talk in this industry. So
Yeah.
she spells out Senior Real Estate Specialist. She spells out the steps that she's going to take. And the problem with the National Association of Realtors is they count senior real estate as anyone over 50.
Well, hey.
That's right.
But the benefit is people over 50 own 3/4 of the real estate in the United States. So it's a market that's going to need a lot of assistance.
Yeah.
And because of my life experience, I'm pretty good at it.
Experience matters.
Experience matters. I'll give you this one when I'm done with it because I haven't even looked at this one yet. This one is from Kevin Gardy. So Kevin Gardy runs an expansion team. And if you don't know what that is.
I met him, but I.
Yes. So he works for the Kristen Cole Network. And Kristen Cole dynamic woman. She started out in Alaska. She actually grew up with Sarah Palin, same town.
Funny.
Yeah. And she has expanded her team. I don't even know how many states she's in currently. I'm sure if I read this, it would tell us. All over the United States. So Kevin works for her team and has her resources. So she has like a big call center and they pay for all the marketing, and it's Kevin Gardy Lifestyle Homes, and it's of the Kristen Cole Network. It would be like if J. Schmidt Group expanded all over the United States, they would be using our resources, our contract to close, our ISA, our inside sales staff. They would be relying on us as their machine, and they would put their name on their sign. And he can go and help develop, teams here, or he could go anywhere. It's completely different than just having a large team here. They have expanded, like I said, all over the United States. Very interesting concept. So this one is going to be completely different than the rest, which I'm really curious to kind of look this up.
Are they all Keller Williams or just?
It's Keller Williams.
So it's all.
Yep, these are all KW, yep. So this goes into detail about some of the things that they offer. So, okay, so there's some really good takeaways in this, you guys, so make sure you really look at this. You know how we say that Keller Williams syndicates to hundreds of websites all over the United States? Well, in this one, they're actually showing us specifically some of the websites that they are associated with. Backpage.com, Bing, Vast. I mean, there's some like Realtor.com, you get Zillow, Yahoo Real Estate. But there's some specifics. So their visuals are pretty interesting. Talking about social media. Okay, 3 things. One of the 3 things, what will happen next. Okay, pricing and process. Talking about the market. So really dive into this. Okay, Kristen Cole Network's proven listing process to get your home sold. Buyer prospecting daily to find a buyer for your home. Okay, well, we all do that. Aren't we putting it on Facebook? Aren't we calling our, yeah, okay. Circle prospecting by calling the surrounding 100 homes. Okay.
Immediately.
Yeah, all right. And talking about marketing, post ad on Craigslist. Now, you have to remember that where her markets are, every market is going to be different. So I know like in Arizona, California, they post a lot of new listings on Craigslist. They create a flyer for your home. They create a YouTube video on the home. Yep. Have signage installed at the property, direct mail, social media, post on Proxio Pro website. This is an international marketing and networking service. Brevity, send out written correspondence to letters to sellers. Send how are we doing survey to seller 30 days after listing the home. Okay, that's a good takeaway. Better behave yourself. Put up door hangers on all the homes in the neighborhood. Again, know your audience. Put up reflective sign. Yep. Add new listings to our KC website, so you put it on your website. List home on the worldwide MLS Proxio. Circle prospect by calling the surrounding 100 neighbors. Send a message to neighbor. Okay, blah, 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 blah. All right. So look through this because you're going to learn about the Kristen Cole Network too, if you're interested. You always are going to take something away from someone else. And that's a form of flattery when you're doing that.
This seems like too much.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
I can see a specific like person though who would really appreciate, like, who just doesn't really like read anything anyway. If they're given like a lot, and they're like, oh, like they clearly know what they're doing, you know, like there's an audience, yeah.
This is someone.
Like, so if you give them like a 3-page thing and like a 10-page thing, it's gonna potentially have the same info, but.
Yeah, he could dial this down, and he might, and he's not here to speak, so I'm only guessing. He may just take a portion of this on a listing. I have no idea.
Or he just flips his specific pages, like, okay, like this is what works, you know, like in Milwaukee, these 3 things work best.
This is probably better like PDF, like you said the day before.
Yeah.
And then you like walk in and here's,
Yeah.
it's gonna take me 2 seconds to go through.
But what a difference between this and Nancy's.
Yeah.
This and Annie's. You know, so there are gonna be things from here that you're thinking, well, dang, I think I wanna add this into my presentation. You should. Any questions? Yes.
If someone wanted you to circle prospect 100 homes around the listing, you had your ISA blueprint, how would you reconcile that with the no-call list?
Well, you wouldn't call them if they're not on the no-call list. I mean,
You have that registry?
oh yeah, we do. Yes, we do a lot of, yeah, you have to. Yeah.
If you haven't, you can sign up with the government, you just sign, you get registered. If you don't sign up and you call someone, the government is looking for people that are violating this, and there's heavy fines per incident call.
Yeah.
So it's really important that you do that.
My first call at Bold, and this was like, I've taken it, I don't know, 7 or 8 times now. It was like 3 years ago, and I called someone, and they said, I'm on the no-call list, and you're in big trouble. And I went, oh my God. I know, I was a little petrified. Sorry, so make sure you check that. So the purpose of this is to create your own individual listing presentation that you absolutely love, that is going to reflect who you are. And you can have the prettiest listing presentation in the world, but you have to go in prepared and coming from service. It's, yes, you're gonna get that listing, but you have to be a really good listener. I like to listen 75% of the time and talk 25%. So if I start talking too much, I literally will, and I do it a lot, is I literally bite my tongue so I don't speak. Because I think you're gonna get listings more if you talk less. When you, as a seller, invite someone to your home, they are extremely nervous. A lot of people have high anxiety about people coming through their home with fresh eyes and going through every single room. And you don't even know what's going on with them. It could be a death, a divorce, a transfer that they really don't want to do. They have children that they're having to uproot, or it could be an exciting time. But you have to pick up on what is actually going on behind the scenes and being really sensitive to that. And come with value. Especially if you're new, being a great listener is going to be your golden ticket. A lot of experienced agents will come in with all guns a-blazing with, you know, I've sold this, I know that, I know the market, and they're not even listening to the client. So that's where you're gonna come in, and that's when you're gonna get that listing. Because that's what, you know, think about if you were a seller, what you would expect. It's not necessarily years and years of experience. When we listed our house like 10 years ago, I called 3 agents and 2 of them were extremely experienced. First agent, 10 minutes late, came to the phone, or came to the house talking on the phone, and I believe that person thought they sealed the deal because, you know, they were a great agent. They sold a lot, yeah. And didn't even take a full tour of the house, didn't even really have time to go upstairs told us a price, which we thought was pretty damn good. But then we said, do you notice that we have a shared driveway and that might be an issue? Oh my gosh, I didn't even realize that. Left things behind that weren't meant to be left behind, so completely not in the game. So no, that went out. Second one, did not connect with at all. Was all about the presentation and the glossy pages, and I just felt like I didn't feel like it. And the third one is who we went with, who I didn't know, knew, but came in extremely prepared. Knew of the sales that were going on in my neighborhood, had notes written out about each and every house. So I felt like, okay, this person actually did their homework. Whether or not that person was in my house or in those homes or not, it didn't matter, but clearly studied the photos, called some of the agents of those listings that sold to get further details, showed up on time, relaxed, but not too relaxed, and extremely approachable. And when I asked if that person would cut their commission, because I always got to try, the answer was no. I don't cut my commission. The other two did. I went with agent number 3, which was Jay Schmidt. That's how I met him. Yeah, that's how I met him. So just because, and he was new. So just because you're new doesn't mean that you can't get that listing. I would spend 3 to 4 hours to prepare myself for a listing. And I would practice it. What are the objections going to be? I try to get every piece of information from these people before I got in there. So if I can't see it, can you tell me, when did you do any updates? What did you do? What bathrooms, kitchens, did you finish your basement? If it was an MLS prior, I'm going to study it and then ask some questions from there. I'm trying to get as much information before I walk into that house. Are you interviewing other agents? I always ask that. I always ask who they are. I never say anything bad about anybody, ever. And they maybe want you to. Don't ever do it. It makes you look really bad. Don't say a word. Silence is golden. It says a lot.
Do you have any like disarming clips for so rather than like if you need to say something like to like keep the conversation moving, be like, oh yeah, like they do great work, and then just kind of like move on, or like
I'll just say that's awesome.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't really say anything. Yeah. And be ready for the classic objections. You have to have a script for all of your objections, and they're always going to be the same. Nothing is going to surprise you. Nancy, what is probably your number one objection going to a listing?
You know, that's a good question. Most of the time, it kind of evolves around them, like what they need to do to the house. You know, there's a lot. That's pretty much the whole conversation is, and how much I think it'll cost, and da 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 da. You know, there's never really big objections. You know, commission will come up, but it really doesn't that much, because when you go in and you're so prepared,
Yes.
and you know your numbers and you know what you're doing and stuff, you don't even get to that. They don't even ask you what you're doing.
You know what? I think if you come, you know, armed and ready to go, and you are a consultant, and you have that listing presentation with all of the services that you're going to be providing, it's not just listing their house. It's like helping them prepare to get their house on the market. You know, encouraging them to get a pre-home inspection and why that is of such value. They're already leaning on you more than they've ever leaned on any other agent that's walked through that door. You want them to already want to ask you a lot of questions, and you're going to have the answers. You are going to be their consultant. So going to that commission part, when it gets to that listing agreement, they're almost going to feel ridiculous asking you to cut your commission because you've already told them so many things. I'll tell you one thing, and I know I've said this 1,000 times. When you're walking through the house and they're asking you questions about, well, what would you do? Would you move this over? Don't say a word. Don't say, I would probably move that table, don't. Because they are gonna take your information sometimes, go with another agent, and they're gonna do everything that you told them to do. So don't give too much information out. Give enough that they're gonna sign the listing with you, and then you're going to continue your conversation.
So how do you answer that? Like, well, so Janine, what would you do with this room to make it look
Well,
XYZ?
for me, you know, because we have a stager, my line is, oh my gosh, I don't even give you my opinion on it because I'm gonna get slapped by my stager because she's gonna have another opinion and we're gonna go with what she says because she's an expert. Or, you know what? I have a couple different ideas, and once we get the listing signed, I'll be happy to give you those ideas. Don't give it up.
Yeah, what I do is, and what you can do, because I have a stager too. I always put it on her too. I'm like, you know, I don't want to say anything. Wait till Raquel comes through.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. Yeah. But for you, what I always do when I go through a house, I always ask permission, but I always take photos. Yeah. Because I'm old and I forget what these houses, you know. Oh gosh, did they have in their kitchen? Did they have stainless steel? So I take photos of everything. And then what you can say is that, you know, let me go back home and look at all my photos and just
love that.
Just let me go do that, and then when I come back, and then you plan. When I come back to list the house, I'll have and this is another thing I do, and I didn't put that in my listing presentation. What I do is I have a marketing plan for them. So I will list all the things that we need to address just for that house. It's not a stock type of thing. So then and then that's when I take my photos out of my phone and I look at all those and go, they need to, and I take pictures of that going through a house. The one thing that I can't stand, and I always notice it, is chipped woodwork in houses.
Yes.
It drives me nuts.
Yes.
I'm like, that's such a I can't and I tell myself, but anyhow. So I have all those kind of pictures, I go through everything, and then I start making my list. So that's another thing, then when you come back, they're really like, wow, she really looked at my house, you know, and you're really interested in this home. And so that's how I kind of.
I love that, and I honestly think too, when you start taking photos, you're kind of owning that property.
Correct. Yeah,
You're
so
already having that assumption closed, that I'm gonna be listing your property. I now have your photos. I love that. That is great. What if someone comes up to, so let's say I'm going on a listing appointment and we talked about this before, and this happens a lot. We're interviewing a couple agents. I really appreciate your time today, but we're gonna have to think about it. We still have one other agent to meet with. That is going to happen to you. This is what I do, and I think I've said this 1,000 times. I visualize myself hot glued to that dining room chair. Like, this booty is not getting up. I am not leaving. I mean, it sounds really direct. I don't, of course, say that. But I'm like, no, I can't get, I am going to try to close and get that thing listed right off the bat. Because if I walk out the door, and again, you have to read the room, like we're Nancy's situation with the states, you are most likely not gonna be able to do that. But I try.
So what do you do? Like, if someone says that to you?
Yeah.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Other than wanting to talk to a couple of other people, which I understand, is there anything else questioning that I wouldn't be the person to get this house sold for you?
Right, exactly. Is there something that, out of this presentation, that you have any questions about or that you feel uncomfortable with? No. If they say, yeah, we're not really comfortable with the list price that you gave us. And it may not be that it's too low. Sometimes I think it's too high. So then I try to get whatever objection they have, and then I want to address it with them. So there's got to be something. There's got to be one or two things that it's not sitting right. Or they'll say, you know what, my husband and I really want to talk it over. Great, you know what, I'm going to go around and take some notes. I mean, I am ballsy. I'm going to take some notes, additional notes around your home. You know, feel free to talk about whatever you need to, and you know, maybe we can get this wrapped up today. Because as soon as I leave, I'm going to start selling your house. How does that sound? I mean, honestly, if you don't say it, you're gonna be out the door. So don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. All they can do is say no. And actually, I think it is a test in the back of their minds. How hard is he gonna push me? I want him to push back a little. I wanna see how tough he's gonna negotiate for me. Because if he just automatically folds it up and leaves, how is he gonna be working on my behalf? So you gotta have some pushback, you guys. Don't put the tail between your legs and walk out. You may get it, you may not. But at least if you tried every single resource that you can walk out there and go, dang it, I did the best I could. I tried to get them to sign. Or I'll say, why don't we go ahead and do this? Let's go ahead and sign the paperwork and I'll date it for tomorrow. And if between now and then you have a change of heart, why don't you give me a call? How does that sound to you? Okay, I'm gonna tell you, most likely they will sign that paperwork. They will. If they don't, they don't. But you tried. Yes, my dear.
I saw this come up in the Facebook group, so what do you do if there's somebody who's just like, they're just kind of still like thinking about it, they're pretty sure they want to work with you, but they're like, we really just because of like, we just bought a place, we can't move in until, you know, wherever, maybe they're building, but we don't want to list for 8 weeks or something like that. So like, so you just date it out 8 weeks?
Oh, awesome. I love that. So this is what we're gonna do. Not this is what we can do, this is what we're gonna do. We actually are in delayed status for 3. So let's go ahead and sign the paperwork today and I'll date it for 5 weeks out, and then from there we'll go right into delayed. So then we don't have to go back and forth and come back and do paperwork and all of that jazz. You can't do anything with it. You can't put it in MLS, but you have a signed contract that's going to start in 5 weeks, and then you're gonna go into delayed for 3 after that. You are, now, could they call you between now and then and say, Janine, we have a change of heart? You know, could, but at least, you know, in their mind, there are some areas, and one day I want to get there, where you're not doing any listing paperwork when you go to the listing appointment. You're signing, and I think it's the Logan Group down in Houston. So even if it's 6 months out or 5 months out, you are signing just one piece of paper, and you're committing to working with that team. Now, will it hold up in anything? Maybe not, but in that seller's mind, they've already signed an agreement with you. And even if the contract starts in 2 days and they'll send everything over via PDF, but all they're doing is signing one piece of paper and you're out the door.
Jenny, I
love that.
understand what you're saying about having that 8-week window,
Mm-hmm.
but let's try this. How about if we sign the contract today and then I put you into withdrawn status? I can take you in and out of withdrawn status at any time, but if, for example, somebody comes and wants to buy the house in 3 weeks, we'll pop you out of withdrawn. But during that 8-week time, we can do the things that we've talked about to get your house ready to market, so you're ready on that 8 week plus 1 day. What do you think about that?
I think that's really confusing.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't understand what withdrawn status is. It sounds like it might be a little manipulative,
Okay.
and that you just want me to sign the paperwork.
Well,
And
yeah,
I
that's
actually
true.
have no idea what you're talking about.
Yes.
I mean, I'm just like putting my seller hat on, like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, and I'm still, you know,
Yeah.
I think they're confused about
And
excluded
dear
and
MLS
delayed
is
and
watching
withdrawn.
that.
MLS is watching.
MLS is
And guess
watching
what?
that like a hawk.
When an agent pulls up history, when that property does go on the market, they're like, withdraw, what?
It
There's
looks
a,
like, what the heck
there is a
happened?
problem seller
They
right
think
away.
something
I
major
talked
happened to
to
Yeah.
MLS about doing that. They said, go ahead.
But if you make one mistake,
Yeah.
your head's off.
$10,000.
What are your thoughts about exclusive?
Of course.
I don't love them at all, because first of all, we've had our hands chopped off, not us personally, but I know that as agents, being very, very careful with excluded listings. You cannot you can telephone somebody about it, but you can't text an agent about it, you can't email an agent about it, and believe me, if you think that agent is your friend and you're texting about something, be careful, because it's happened in this brokerage where they thought we could share some information via text on an off-market property, and they got in big fat trouble. So I don't love it. If it's your last resource, yes, but on our team, you have to be bleeding and tell us why, because it's just gonna get you in trouble.
What is your biggest, in your time, objection that you've got over and over and over again, besides the couple we talked about?
We're not ready to go yet.
Okay. So
Janine, this is mine right now, and I wouldn't even say it's a truth. Honestly, we're probably thinking in a year, but I want you to come out here and tell me everything I need to do, and we're thinking about it. So that would be my number one issue.
how do you, that's what they're gonna, how many times
So
have you?
there, you're not going to be signing any
Yes,
paperwork. Okay, so because that would be just absolutely insane.
Yeah.
I am on them like, you know what?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm being recorded, so I want to. I forget about that. I am their best friend, so I am calling them, giving them resources, and then they're relying on me so much that they have forgotten that there's any other agent in town. So literally one that I'm working on right now that's going live, I don't know, March, 3 years.
Oh my God.
3 years.
Wow.
No, I teach a class at the Lydell Community Center twice a year, how to prepare your home for a market. And I change it up. I'll have a home inspector and an organizer come in and all this stuff, and it's really cool. And I've met so many people that they're retirees and they're thinking about if we ever sold our house. I keep in touch with every single one of those. And then 2 years later, 3 years later, it's so much fun. Another objection would be they want to talk to other agents. And I, again, asked Jay, I go right in and dive. I am not going to leave that seat. So what is it? Is there any objections or anything that stands out from what we discussed today that makes you feel uncomfortable that you wouldn't want to list with us? No. Okay, great. I know you have an appointment this afternoon, but let's go ahead. I will try. I will try.
What if, all right, so I keep hearing this, the commission thing, right, the 6%. And then I'm hearing different versions of it, just hearing people talk. If someone showed up early, for instance, you had the J experience, they showed up early, but they're like, yeah, the other person, someone else did the exact same thing, showed up early, was just as prepared.
Yeah.
They were willing to go 5.
You know what makes me nervous about that is that they're so quick to drop their commission, and I'm curious how they would handle negotiating on your behalf once you get an offer. That will shut them up.
Cool.
I think it was you or someone, maybe Jay said that someone, same thing, would you lower? No, I'm not gonna lower because you pay, I don't know how to word it, but you pay lawyers, you pay these people to do everything you expect them to do for you don't balk at their cost.
Right.
That's not what I'd say exactly. But
Right, and I don't go there because then I think it puts them on the defense a little bit. But I always say what concerns me about that or what makes me worried about that. So, oh my gosh, she's concerned and worried. I should be too. Oh my gosh, all of a sudden I'm concerned and worried that they dropped their commission. I'm concerned and worried.
I also try and keep a mindset of I feel like I'm usually a deal finder or whatever, but I know not everyone is like that. And I have met, some buyers that I work with now, but he was he hadn't heard of Keller Williams. He's like, you guys charge 6% for listings, right? He just wanted to be sure we were the type of place that does charge that because he's like, I feel like they just do a better job. So he was and he's a frugal guy, but he's just you get what you pay for, and this, people spend their money where they know it's going to matter.
Well, literally, you should have someone in front of you saying to you, whether it's your spouse, your dog, your cat, your kid, saying, I don't want to list I'm not going to go with the 6%. Someone XYZ is going to take it for 5. And do it to you 25 times. And it should roll out of your lips so quickly and with such finesse that there isn't any hesitation. Because as soon as they perceive a hesitation, oh shit, they've asked me this, and they can see that in your face, they found a weakness. It is so true. And the only way you're going to overcome that is practicing it. I mean, seriously, because it's going to happen, and you've got to be prepared not to react. You know what concerns me about that? You know what worries me about that? And I'm telling you, all of a sudden, they're going to become concerned and worried. And that's exactly what we want.
Number 5 on the realtor's job description, practice and role play.
Yeah, yeah. If you don't have a script, and you're just saying what's coming, you know, like, oh my gosh, I got this, I can pull it. That's your script. And is that the best script that you can have? And don't practice on your clients, that's malpractice. So true. Yes.
I was just gonna say, that's fair, but.
Yes, that's fair.
That's fair.
That's fair. Yes, my dear.
Okay, so we don't have a lot in this area, but for the flat fee, like how do you compete? You know, they're like, well, I have so-and-so. It's such a hot market. It's like, why should I have to pay when I can just do that fee and my house is gonna sell for whatever anyways?
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, so what I would do if in that position is I would have all the statistics of where flat fee is in MLS. Are they in the top 2? Do they sell the most? No. So what makes me a little nervous about that is, are they actually listing where they should be listing? Are they actually casting the widest net that they should be casting? Are you missing out on offers that could be better and bigger than what they're going to be casting? And the answer is probably no. They're putting a sign in the yard. And are they really negotiating on your behalf? Most likely no.
Yeah, I would love to be on the other side and have them come, like the flat fee person.
Yeah.
Just to have their argument against like the 6% commission.
Well, let's see if we can get somebody to come in.
Seriously?
Okay.
Someone that used to be a flat fee person.
Yeah.
Like, so how did what was their presentation?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's a good one.
I also point out that after the accepted offer, they
They're out.
aren't involved.
They're out.
Because when you have issues,
Yeah.
people don't show up,
Yeah.
don't do things,
Yeah.
they're not there to help. And so it's very
Yeah,
evident that they get what
Yeah,
they
we've
get.
been on that side of it.
So oh yes, Nancy.
I had an example of, well, I've sold several of them, the flat fees.
Yeah.
So, let's say they listed it at $450. So, we wrote an offer for $430. This was a beautiful, beautiful house in Franklin. So we came in $20,000 less. And I said to my buyers, I said, this house is gorgeous. It's probably priced, you know. So we came in $20,000 less when we got our offer accepted. They don't care. That's $20,000 that seller lost right off the bat. There was no negotiating, no nothing. So use that as an example.
Right.
And I can, and I have tens of them.
I think Redfin,
they don't care.
They don't care. And I think Redfin, the listing agents, now I'm not quite sure.
I can tell you about that.
They are paid on salary, correct?
Right.
Not on commission,
yes,
100%?
So I had this beautiful listing in Brookfield, and we were asking $625. So it's a Redfin agent, and she writes an offer, and came in like $60,000. It was ridiculous. I can't remember. I was like, "Are you serious?" She goes, "I hate to say this, but I'm brand new. This is like my first transaction." And I said, "Well, how about your buyer? Where did your buyer come from?" They were moving from out of town. She goes, "You know, I just got him on the phone, you know, because they're on the sites, so then they come up to whoever. They have no experience." And then so we finally got her to the price, almost full price. And she was just like, "Thank you so much, you know, this is my first transaction." And so I did all the work and got her through. So then I asked her, I said, "How does this work, you know?" She goes, "Well, we just get paid from this team." And I know, by accident, she sent her a contract.
Oh!
By accident, she sent the whole contract. She had to give that buyer, like, it was thousands of dollars, a kickback type of thing.
God.
So I went to, at the time I was with, this happened, I think I was still at Shore West. And I was just like, "Look at this." She's like, "Oh, by accident, she sent that." So they have this contract with a buyer, and then they say, "Okay, you have to give us like $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 back." and then they give the rest to their team. So I don't know what that person ever got paid. It was
probably
fireworks,
nothing.
you know?
Yeah.
So I'm like,
That's
and
crazy.
it's a revolving.
Part of the 80%
They're
cost.
Yeah.
Redfin is like, they're like a Zillow. They're a marketing
Right.
station, and they try and get people to be their agents so that they can sell them back leads. And
I think
there's
it's
like,
important though, as like for consumers, there is like a really big market. Like there are people who want that like ease of finding an agent. Like they just want to go online and never speak to a human and stuff like that. So I feel like it's easy for us to be like, but like
Not
I think
as
it's also
much
important
here.
to keep in mind. Yeah.
Not as much here. I feel like Milwaukee area is very relationship based. I think in different areas, you know, where it's very transitional, Houston, Dallas, Phoenix, there isn't that.
Midwest nice.
Yeah, or they're, you know, people just, they're transient, you know, they're transient cities. We're here in Milwaukee, they love relationships. They want to be loved on, and I'm even saying, as much as like my generation older loves to be loved on, it's actually the younger ones want that attention. They're always on the computer. There isn't that relationship, and people are missing that, especially now with COVID. They want a relationship. So just as important of going in and selling your KW, your team, yourself, your knowledge, having your objections, the number one thing that you have to go in with is, why in the heck am I doing this job? You have to let them know. They are never going to ask you. They may ask you how long you've been in the business. You can avoid that question if you tell them why you're doing this. They want to hear it. I want to know the story. I am so emotionally tied to my house or my condo or whatever, and I'm handing this over to somebody. I want to know who they are more than what's on that paper. And if you're not telling them who you are, you're missing out. You're missing out on a ton of listings. I go right to the heart. Yeah. I go right to the heart. Pretty much within sitting down, when I first sit down, I'll say, this is why I'm in real estate. This was my experience, and it was life-changing, life-altering, and I am here because of this, and I want to serve you. I mean, honestly, that's the connection that you want to make. I don't care about anything else. I do, but you know what I mean? One thing before I forget, when you're, especially in this market, when you're talking about multiple offers on your listings and all of that, one thing that we do say is we will be there for that appraisal. So we're not going to give the appraiser the lockbox or the Century Lock code, and they're like, what are you talking about? That's when the buyer's lender comes in and appraises the property. We will be there to meet that appraiser. If there are multiple offers, we will have those in hand. We'll eliminate some of the, you know, the personal information, but we will have those ready. We'll have lists of improvements, things to know. We'll know, you know, we'll have all the age of the roof, da-da-da-da-da. We will be there. That is such a comfort for that seller. And, you know, it could be that the agent that you're competing with will also be there, but that agent maybe didn't say anything. So already you're like, dang, so he's going to be there at that appraisal. The other agent didn't say anything about that. So take them to the very last leg of that transaction, because that's really, you know, of great importance. Even if you don't think there's going to be an issue.
I thought nobody was allowed to be there because they were supposed to be independent.
No, we go all the time.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, a couple of my sellers will say, I would like to be there for that appraisal, and I'm one of those sellers. I will be there, because who knows most about that property? The seller. But absolutely, we are there.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah, I always go, you meet them, it's a relationship thing with the appraiser.
Yes.
They know you, so they just don't, you know, write a low appraisal. I've met them, I bring all my comps.
Yes.
I talk about the house, I make a whole list when I list a property. of all the important items, and they always appraise over.
Yes. When I first started, I think my first listing was a neighbor of mine, and we got a ridiculous price for the house. And I remember Jay saying, Janine, we do not have any comps that are going to back this up. And I'm thinking, shit, I'm nervous. So I was going to meet the appraiser. I was there. Appraiser didn't show up. I'm like, okay, this is weird. Like, what's going on? Finally got a hold of the company, and they said there was some incident that happened. He'll be there tomorrow. So of course I was there the next day, very standoffish, and the appraiser. And I said, hey, I'm sorry we missed each other yesterday. And he was like, so as we were kind of chatting, he told me that he had to put his dog down yesterday, that day before. And you know, of course, that's really sad. So we literally were sitting on the couch and we were both crying about that dog. I mean, but it was like I was okay. No, that sounds really insensitive, and I mean, you can't just.
People can tell if you're bullshitting.
Yeah, you know, it was truly like the nicest guy, but I knew that there was something that wasn't, you know, gelling here.
That's connecting with people.
It is connecting. Or they may say, oh my gosh, can you help me measure the exterior of the house? Hell yeah, I'll help you measure. I'll do anything you want. But they want to see you. If they're looking at you in the eye, you have a relationship. I always ask too, if I'm a little leery, do you have any concerns about this appraisal? And some will say, yeah. Can you send me some comps? This is what I'm getting. I'll say, oh yeah, I actually have some comps, and I'll send them their way. But always ask them. Always ask them. Okay. Any questions?
I think Gail might have been, the way that I was trained, was that you can be there for the appraisal, but not for the inspection. Because the inspection is the time for the buyer and that inspector to be there along.
I gotta tell you, the most annoying thing as a buyer's agent is you're there at that inspection with your buyers, and the listing agent starts, you know, they can drop in the beginning or pop in at the end, but to literally think that they're gonna stay there for that inspection, kindly ask them to leave, that this is your time with your buyer and the inspector. There is one that is classic for doing this, and it was, I'm recorded. I am recorded. And literally, I had to boot this person out, you know, like boot. So as a listing agent, I used to like pop in at the very end. I don't anymore. I will call that agent and say, hey, listen, when you leave, can you give me a call so we can just kind of recap and I make sure that you're done so I can let the sellers know. That's it. That's it. I don't get in there. That's their time. But I do like to say, hey, when you leave, could you let me know? And then I grab them and see if I can get some information. But you have to be careful with that too, because they'll say, well, they're concerned about the air conditioner. It's really old. There were some electrical things that they want to address, but that's it. It was clean. It was really great. So if you go around and you tell your seller that, right? You're like, okay, these are the two things they're worried about. I think we're good. 2 days later, you get this amendment and it's 5 pages long. You're like, what? So who looks like the fool? You do. So try to navigate
so then
that.
If that happens, like they tell you the two things, knowing what you know, what do you tell your sellers? They're done? You guys can go back. Like, you don't show your cards at all?
Don't show your cards. Yeah. Okay. One more thing, and then I'll shut up. And we're going to talk about this at our team meeting. So when you're negotiating an offer on either side, and this has happened because I've had agents on our team come back and say, oh my gosh, this is what's happening. Let's say you agree, you're going great, you're having the home inspection, you're writing the amendment, and you're going to call that listing agent and say, yep, we're sending the amendment over, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things on it, I'm just going to give you the heads up. And then that agent says, oh, no. The sellers are not going to do that. They'll do X, Y, and Z. They're not going to do the rest of it. So this is what's happening. So a seasoned agent, even the seasoned agents, sometimes will back off, go back to their buyer and say, you know what, I talked to the agent, they're only willing to do 1, 2, 3. You haven't even sent the amendment over yet. Bull. Because is that agent really discussing anything with that client of theirs? Or are they speaking for themselves? More than likely, they're speaking for themselves. Send that amendment over. Don't listen, just send it over, because then you know that it's gonna get into the seller's hand. They either have to accept it, or reject it, or counter. But if you do a lot of this verbal back and forth, and that agent is so quick to say, oh, they're not gonna do that, as a buyer's agent or a listing agent, be careful with that. I do a lot of verbal, but it's either, you know, here's what we're gonna propose, yep, we're good, then I'll put it over and sign it. But if they're gonna say, nope, 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 we're not gonna do that, I'm gonna write all of that up and send it over, because in these 2 scenarios this past week, I told the agent, write it up anyway and send it over, and they were both accepted. Interesting. So be careful. Don't get bullied out there. They're waiting to bully. Don't be one of those. You have to present it to that seller or your buyer. Okay, next week is completely different. Next week, we're having a lender come in. One of my biggest things as a new agent was I had so many questions, but I was afraid to ask because I didn't want to look like a dumbass. So what we're going to do is, prior to the, he'll come in and introduce himself, I'm going to have you write down your top 4 questions of what you want to hear from a lender but afraid to ask. I'm going to put them in a basket.
Hey, Miss Leslie.
So no one's going to know who asked what, and you're going to feel a lot more comfortable that way. So feel free to like put anything in there, because there are no dumb questions.
Oh, okay.
Okay? So questions that you are afraid a buyer may ask you and you may not know the answer to, or just what the market is today and how, you know, we're hearing of these interest rates rising. How does that literally affect our buyer at
because you can't
$1,000 house at this interest rate? What is their purchase price if it goes up another 0.5%?
Okay, call hey.
I don't know how to mute whoever that is. Oh, I think that. So be prepared for that. And then if we have time, we're going to go over the buyer agency agreement, how to get in front of a buyer. You pick up at an open house and you're having rapport. Well, now what the heck do you do? Like, great, that's awesome. You're set them up in MLS, blah, 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 but what does that mean? Where do you go from there? How do you get that person to become your client? That's the hardest thing in the world. Honestly, it's not. It's super easy. It is super easy. And we're going to make it so easy for you, you're going to go, damn. Yeah, I got them as clients now. How did that happen? Real simple. So simple you won't believe it. I promise. Okay. Bye. Thank you, Nancy.
Thanks, Nancy.
Yeah, so guys, for sharing your listing presentation.
I learned something new all the time.
Would you be able to actually like look over my listing presentation?
Sure.
If you had like 5 minutes.
Could you send it to me in a PDF? Because I have a class that I'm supposed to be at in 5 minutes.
Okay.
Yep. It's J.
I'll take it.
Yes. J. WERNER at kw.com. I'm hopping on a plane real quick, and